Hey, this is Peter Teuscher from Peter Teuscher Coaching. If you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should listen to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my good friend, Scott Ferguson. Let's level up.
Hey, Time to Shine Today podcast. Varsity Squad, it is Scott Ferguson. And here in South Florida, I reached all the way over to Germany to talk to my really good friend, Peter Teuscher, a personal development guy that I learned immensely from. In this podcast, I follow him, his journey kind of from rock bottom and crisis to really coming back, leveling up, his systemic approaches, how he's all about really kind of taking action to kind of get you out of ruts, to get you out of just a place of standstill. And he has so many knowledge nuggets. I know that I had like 3 pages employing or deploying out with my own personal coaching clients. So sit back, relax, break out your notebook. So if you like it, please smash the subscribe button or follow us or something like that, just because my sponsors and affiliates really love it. And I love keeping in touch with you. So without further ado, here's my really good friend, Peter Teuscher. Let's level up. Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson, and happy 2025. This is the first, you might get this in February, but this is my first actual interview in the year 2025. And I reached all the way across the pond, all the way across the ocean to Hamburg, Germany, because I've been wanting to get my good friend Peter Teuscher on. Peter is a fantastic coach, and he's a systematic coach and an author. He draws from his experience as an entrepreneur, executive in the corporate world, and world traveler. I mean, he's from north of the border here. I live in the United States. He's from Canada, on the beautiful part of Canada there in Vancouver, but then he migrated over to Germany, which Regina Huber, I know you listen. I'm going to put you in touch with my good friend Peter here as well. But Peter's personal development journey really kicked off when he faced serious mental health issues in his early 30s. He uses his diverse background and experience to help others discover their highest potential by becoming aware of and changing the thoughts, beliefs, and habits that stand in their way. And Peter, thank you so much for coming on. Please introduce yourself to the Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
My favorite color is actually blue, and it's hard to tell you why. I just know as a kid, I always was drawn to the color. When the first time my parents let me decide the colors in my bedroom, it was blue, different shades of blue. So it was just kind of an intuitive thing. I've always kind of been drawn to it. Maybe because I grew up on the Pacific and I love the ocean.
I'm literally looking at the Atlantic. I'm blessed to live on the ocean here, on the Atlantic Ocean here in Palm Beach. But it's like, I was telling you off mic, it's like 40 degrees. So it's like, I'm actually literally watching these kiteboarders right now doing their thing. I'm like, dude, you're crazy. I don't care how big of a wetsuit but you have on. But no, blue's my jam too, brother. Awesome. So let's get to the roots, man. I heard some mental challenges and stuff like that. We can start wherever you would like to, but I want to get to the roots because I know you help level up a plethora of people. And I'm super, super stoked. I've been wanting to meet you for a while. And thank you so much for coming on.
Well, I really appreciate having me on, Scott. And yeah, I guess my journey kind of started when I was at a place in my life where, like, I think a lot of people, when they face a crisis or they have some kind of a rock bottom moment, that forces them to change. And for me, I was in a situation. My brother and I had built this business in Canada. We were doing well from the outside. My life looked great, but I would come home at night alone, feeling super unhappy. And I didn't even know what depression meant. I didn't even know what mental illness or anything like that referred to. I just kind of thought that I just thought that I had some kind of a genetic failure or there was something wrong with me in the brain. And then I heard this public service announcement that said, if you're experiencing these symptoms, you may be suffering from depression. And that was kind of the first indication that actually there's a name for how I'm feeling, and it's not so. There is some normality to it. I'm not the only one experiencing this because I felt really guilty. I felt really bad. I had all this success in my life. I had great friends. I had all this stuff where you should be happy in my mind. And then I was really unhappy. And that's when I led me to get some therapy and recognize that I'd actually been experiencing depression since I was, like, my first memory of it was when I was 7, grade 2. So I had experienced periods of it throughout my life. And I just kind of forced my way through sort of a functioning depression. And so when I got to that place in my early 30s where it's like, I don't know if I could go on with my life like this, that's when I started when I had good days, I started making changes. I started really taking action to try and improve my situation. I got therapy. The therapist recommended I go to a meditation teacher. I started reading a ton of personal development books. I actually started coaching basketball. I played in high school, and all these things I was learning, I was trying to pass on to these young men I was coaching.
Right.
And so all of this got me onto the journey to where I am right now, with a whole bunch of little twists and turns. But yeah, that was kind of the starting point, or the place that I
Right.
shifted at.
Was it ever kind of like did you ever have kind of like an anxiety attack or anything like that? Because that's what happened with me, brother. It was like
Yeah.
32, because it was 2004. I was 32 years old, and I'm sitting in this new office that I'm so proud of. I built it out, had employees, and I sat down on the floor of the office. I remember it because it was like this industrial carpet, right? Like the kind that, because in Michigan it's just salt everywhere, bringing it in from the snow, but I just stayed there and I just collapsed, and I laid there, and this like crazy feeling came over my body, right? And I'm like, what the hell is going on, right? And so luckily who I was seeing at the time was a therapist, right?
Oh, great.
And I'm like, babe, this is happening. And she's like, oh, you're going through an anxiety attack. Everything's gonna be okay. And luckily she helped me nip it, right? I mean, like bam, like right there. But like, what was it for the symptoms for people that are listening that maybe are having them, that they can notice it and be like, hey man, this might be like anxiety and borderline depression?
Yeah, I've certainly experienced anxiety at points, and where you're just feeling totally overwhelmed with your
Yeah.
situation, and it's just because of the way the lens through which you're looking at your life, or the things, the tasks that are ahead of you. And so there, you'll find a lot of times that depression and anxiety go hand in hand. And so for me, my symptoms were, there were no obvious reasons for me to be people. It's normal for people to
Right.
be depressed when they have a divorce, when they lose their job,
Yeah.
when there's some kind of major change in their life. I had all these things going for me. I had no reason to feel unhappy or sad or really down. And so when there are no mitigating circumstances that are causing you to feel this way, there's clearly something going wrong internally. And it's a combination of your mental processes and the physical processes. So
Yeah.
obviously there's a lot of things that affect your dopamine levels and the brain chemistry that contributes to the state that you're in. But there are also a lot of mental processes, and that's the thing that I try and pass on to people. Is the thing that changed my life the most was recognizing that I could change what I believe and think,
Mhm.
and noticing that when I change my thoughts and beliefs, I fundamentally changed my life, and I recognized how much potential I really had.
Right. I mean, thoughts are our action that comes from our thoughts. It's like we just kind of move forward with it. And thank you for saying that it can also be physiological, because a lot of I'm not going to get on my pulpit here and stuff, but like the food that is sprayed, that is enriched, that is fortified, that we're putting in our body, man, once I removed that, it was like a whole new. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll still crush some chicken wings and I'll go out and have some good food, right? But once I remove the processed, the fortified, the enriched, my mental took off. Like, what is your belief on like the foods we eat also can affect the mental?
I was, over the years, obviously I've learned a ton more about mental health than what I knew back then. But I'm amazed when you look at your microbiome
Mhm.
and how that affects your mental health. Even being dehydrated
My
can
gosh,
affect
yeah.
it can contribute to depression.
Yeah.
So the thing is, what your good gut health comes from eating good food, right? So
Right.
so if you're eating massively processed food, if you're doing a lot of things to disrupt your microbiome or not propagate the kind of healthy gut bacteria, that can actually contribute to depression and other mental health illnesses.
Love it.
So
Yeah.
working as a systemic coach, I look at people, their whole situation, and I look at how the different elements of their life relate to each other and have an effect. And the same goes for your health and your mental health and your physical well-being. Everything's tied together. It's all systemic. They all have their connections and they all have influence on each other. So the nutrition and the food element is definitely a factor in mental
100%.
and physical health.
Right. And like I've been blessed to go to Italy a lot, with just trips and whatnot. And I've never really seen a fat Italian, right? And they eat pasta and bread every day, dude. I mean, I know they do a lot of walking and stuff like that, but it's like there's Americans do a lot of walking, but when they eat pasta and bread, they get fat. But there's no fortify. I remember going there one time, they have anything to declare, and I said, no, I'm good. And they went through my bag and they're like, I had these orange crackers with peanut butter in the middle. They're like, what about these? And I'm like, what about them? And like, this is junk. We don't allow this. And I'm like, I didn't get it
Really?
at the time. Right. And you just don't see that
Okay.
many fat Italians. I'm sorry, obese for anybody that wants to be politically correct here, but like bigger Italian people. And it's because they don't allow that stuff. I mean, they have frosted flakes there, but look at the look at the labeling, right? I don't, okay, we're done with that part because I want to really get into your coaching and how you help people. So how did we kind of lean into becoming like a highly sought after coach that you are right now, Peter?
Well, when I moved over to Europe, I left a business in Canada. We ended up selling it, but I made this huge shift, leaving family, friends, everything, and started new. First, I backpacked through Asia, trying to figure things out. Came to Europe, started working in the corporate world, and so initially I wanted to just improve my people skills. I wanted to be a better manager, a leader of
Mm,
people, and so I was taking different types of courses along with all the personal development stuff I was doing. And then I ended up taking a 1 year coaching course that really was meant to improve my leadership skills and be, because I really believe in leading people and or being a manager that coaches people rather than being someone
mm,
who tells them, yeah, I'm all about teach a man to fish rather than the whole, if you teach something or help people find the answers themselves, they're going to be more self-sufficient and it'll be much easier to lead them.
absolutely.
And so through that process of that combination of my own personal development journey and the learning in an organization to be more effective and help people find their own highest potential, that kind of led me to where I am now. Although the trainer, when I finally got certified as a systemic coach, one of the trainers said to me, listen, with your corporate background and your personal development skills and now you're coaching, you would really have a lot to offer people. And he had his own consulting business. And so he brought me in to start working on leadership training and coaching executives. And so that was kind of I realized I had a lot to give. And so since then, my main priority is I only want to work on things where I feel I can add value. And so that kind of developed over the years. I was doing the corporate job and the coaching in parallel to the point where I could build up enough of a clientele to really focus on that. So, and all the while, I just realized the two things I focus on is helping people find clarity and helping people navigate change. And so much of that, I don't need to tell you this, but so much of that is based on our own inner roadblocks, the beliefs that stand in our way, our negative thinking habits. And the highest performers will be the ones who are have the biggest case of imposter syndrome. And so it's amazing. And so helping people navigate that and gain a new perspective has been just something that's been so fulfilling for me.
I love that you said that the imposter syndrome, because it comes across even as a coach. I
Mhm.
feel imposter syndrome. The people that I'm blessed to coach, the PGA golfers, the MLB, NFL, and like my coach actually said one time, she's like, "Listen, do you link your abilities to your confidence?" And that's where becoming an imposter that really sets in when you start saying, "Dude, why am I coaching this billionaire like Chet, like Harlow is 3 comma guy. I'm blessed to coach him, but who am I to coach him?" And but the thing is she's had me put together my intentions to my confidence. I'm intending what I want to do in the world. So when she started helping me link my intentions, then the confidence just soared, whether it be on stage or in front of people. But I have to ask you, you've mentioned like 6 times now systemic.
Yeah.
What is the systemic coaching and how does it differ from maybe other coaching programs?
Well, there are lots of really great valuable tools, and I use some stuff from NLP and different coaching models.
Yeah.
But the systemic coaching is a set of principles, and so it basically is a holistic approach. So when you a system when you look at it systemically, you look at what's the system at play here, and so you look at the big picture, and then you discern the different parts of the system. So you can relate this to a work situation or a health situation, anything, right? So you can look at within an interpersonal situation, you can look at the different people and the relationship they have to you and to each other,
Ooh.
and then you zoom in and zoom out, so you get this big picture and you look at things from different perspectives,
Mm.
and then recognizing those relationships that the different parts of the system have to each other help you find solutions to problems that can change for the long term, not just quick fixes, but they are things that you integrate into your life to create a change in a meaningful, sustainable way.
That's beautiful. So you're kind of really digging deep with your clients. I can actually see you in a coaching session, not just listening with your ears, but I call it listening with your neck, right? Like really leaning in and picking up on the different cues that they have, whether verbal, nonverbal, sounds. Well, that's verbal. Just the different things. I really see that. So do you work with clients kind of one-on-one or more group, or what's your situation?
I do. I work with people one-on-one.
Okay.
I do group coaching as well. A lot of companies or organizations will want to have that kind of group coaching, especially if it's a team. And I do leadership training. So helping people in all the challenges that come with leadership, because a lot of people who are experts in their area and then they get promoted to be in a leadership role, and then nobody's ever taught them how to navigate that. And so, but I really love the one-on-one, helping people kind of find the answers within them, the
Sure.
potential that they have. So
Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
yeah, that's how I think I add the most value is getting people to find their own highest potential.
I love that. And I love that you said them find it. When I
Mhm.
coach, I always if I'm blessed to coach somebody here in South Florida, I go out to their car. First, I want to see how they keep their car, the organized or not, because you can tell a little bit about people with that. But I put them in the driver's seat and I say, this little mirror right here, that's your past. That's your rearview mirror. That's where therapy's taken care of. Like I can't help
Mhm.
you there, right? Great place to
Exactly.
visit and learn from, but I can't help you there. Windshield, big, scary. Oh my gosh, what's going on here? But since 2011, they've been putting this thing on the console called a GPS. That's what I am. But like you just said, I can't buckle the seatbelt if you so choose to. I can't start the car, put it in gear. You've got to do that. My superpower is curiosity. I'm going to get the questions that are asked, and they're going to take action and see it through. So I think you and I kind of have the same philosophy on they've got to
Yes.
do the work and actually come up with it in a sense. We'll help them game plan and say, okay, make a right here, left here, but we're not going to say this is how you do it, because then you become a consultant.
That's
If I'm so,
exactly, I was just going to say that.
yeah,
That's exactly it. People who come to a coach who expect answers, they're asking you to be a consultant. And the thing is, I believe everyone has the answers within them, because any answer I'm going to give you is
yeah,
not going to be the best fit for you. You're going to know what the right
right,
answer is for you. I just accompany you there. I help you find that and dig that up. I help you find the questions that are going to, either the questions you don't want to ask or you
right.
haven't thought to ask yourself, right?
Love it. Yeah, and that's yeah, everybody's challenge that resides in them. That solution's just a little bit to the side. It's just we
Yeah.
help them kind of get to it. Because I've told people, I went into consulting mode a couple times and they like came back and like, Fergie, you suck. It didn't work. Because it was my idea,
Yeah.
where when they come up with it and you hold them accountable, then next thing the magic starts to happen. And speaking of questions, when you're maybe in a discovery session with a possible client, is there any good question that you wish they would ask you but never do?
Well, the thing that I would like people to understand what coaching is, because a lot of people who have never been coached before, they come in and they think that you're going to provide them with some solutions, and they think that it's all about providing certain tools and so on. That stuff is a support mechanism, but like I would really like it if people asked what coaching is, because most people who go to coaching don't even, if they've never been coached before, they don't even know how to describe it,
Right.
right? So I think that's really the fundamental question. Everything else figures itself out,
Yeah.
but then that helps set their expectations and understand what they're in for.
Yeah. Thank you for saying. I asked your coach what coaching is, because I mean, like the Tom Brady played a lot of football, right? Bill
Mhm.
Belichick never really played a snap at that level, but he's the coach. He helps him see things, holds that mirror up in front of Tom and says, which becomes an iPad and looking at plays, like, listen, this is what we've got to do to make adjustments. And some of my clients actually get that. They're like, shit, that's right. Bill's not out there throwing passes, dude. So it's Tom that was doing it. So
But that's the reason I myself go to
yeah,
coaching sometimes,
me too,
because
brother.
it's really hard to see through all the stuff you've got going on in your head when it's your own challenge that you're trying to get through. And so having an outside perspective, someone who's a neutral person who's willing to ask you those questions that you're not either willing to or haven't thought of, that's a help for anybody, no matter what. I bet you even like a Tony Robbins would get it, let himself be coached,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So
Oh yeah, he does. I mean, I'm blessed to be one of his opening speakers when he's in Palm Beach. And like he introduces me to his coaches that he has
yeah,
his
that's
advisory
great.
board. And myself, I open up I have like my own entourage of coaches that I have and consultants also. And I listen to them. And the coaches, they hold me accountable. I need a coach that's really going to hold my feet to the fire and be like, dude, like this, did you get this done? And hold me accountable. And I think that a great coach would do that. So what do you feel your strengths are as a coach, Peter?
Well, fundamentally, it's always about intuitively knowing to ask the right questions. And so I don't really have a template other than sort of the
Thank you.
principles that I work under. Having a template, I think, gets in the way. So if you have sort of a checklist of questions to ask, or if you have a set kind of regime that you take people through, that's never going to work for everybody. And so
Yes.
I find I work fairly intuitively. I had one client who, and talk about being intimidated working with certain people. I had a client who flew me to New York for 2 days, full coaching sessions, and I was on my way there going, I don't know, I'm going to fill these 2 days. I know
Right.
I got enough experience and tools in my back pocket,
Sure.
but when you think about the expense of flying someone because they trust you to go to from Germany to New York, spend 2 full days. And intuitively, I navigated that and I was able to ask the right questions,
Sure.
able to provide the right tools. Look, if you learn your craft, you're going to know, just like a good quarterback or a good craftsman, you're going
Yeah.
to know the right things. You don't have to have it planned out. And so
Thank
I
you.
think just intuitively knowing to ask the right questions
Yeah.
and to apply the right tools for the right situation.
Absolutely. And have the balls, if you will, to call audibles in the middle of I'm there as well. Because again, I've been on that plane just like you, and you're like, man, what am I doing? Feeling that imposter syndrome kind of sleep in. And then it's just the reminder, link your confidence to your intentions. What's your intention? What's your intention? And then turn it on that superpower of curiosity, which I know that that's yours as well, because of how you've been talking and how you're getting to the roots of your clients that you love on and that you help is
Yeah,
the curiosity. It wouldn't happen without curiosity. So,
I totally agree.
yeah. So, Peter, have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
I have.
Okay,
Like
let's go.
Michael J. Fox is Canadian.
That's right. He is. That's right. So let's get in that DeLorean with Marty McFly, right? Let's
Yeah.
go back to the double deuce, the 22-year-old Peter. All right. What knowledge nuggets, so we call him here Time to Shine today, what knowledge nuggets might you drop on him? Not to change much, okay? Like, let's not change anything because your life is pretty damn good, but maybe to
Yeah.
help shorten a learning curve or maybe blast through maybe just a little bit quicker.
Well, the first thing I would point out is don't believe everything you think. A lot of we have so many thoughts every day, and we all have this inner critic. We all have this narrator that is talking about and commenting on the life that we're living. And the thing is, if you believe everything that inner voice says, it's no wonder that you're scared to take the next step, or you're unsure about what the right thing to do is, or you feeling anxiety. And so I would say be willing to question the thoughts that you have. I'm not saying don't trust yourself,
Yeah.
but I'm saying reflect on the question, the thoughts that go through your head,
Yes.
and question: are they true? Do they
Yeah.
support me? Are they beneficial to me? And I think that's some fundamental advice that I would give the younger
Yeah.
me.
And also, what I always say when I'm asked this question is to get my asking gear, like ask as many questions as I can. Because if you're young, there's people out there that want to help. But like
Yeah.
I stalled myself because my ego or whatever. And I stalled. And that was probably that led to the anxiety attack and the borderline depression, even for myself. So, how does Peter want his dash remembered? That little line in between his incarnation date and his expiration date, his life date and his death date. Hopefully, it's way down the line. But how does Peter want his dash remembered?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been asked before about legacy, and I think fundamentally what I'd love to do is to inspire people with my words, right? So whether it's my writing or whether it's just the conversations I've had with coaching clients, I don't really feel like I'm here for a period of time, and when I'm done, I'm not that worried about how people remember me. I'm more concerned about, whether people remember where it came from or not, did I have an impact? Did I create some positive change in their life? Even if they never remember it was me, whether it was
Right.
the kids I coached, or whether it was a coaching client, or just someone in passing that I said something positive to. I just, that's the legacy that I'd like to have without even having it tied to me necessarily.
That's awesome. And you're doing it in spades, which I can tell. Yeah, even with even on your social and whatnot, you're such a like. Have you read The Go-Giver by Bob Berg?
I, I haven't,
No, it's a
but
great
it's a
book.
good book to add to my
Oh,
list.
yeah, it's a solid book. It's a solid book. It's just about give, 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 and also being open to reciprocation. So, Peter, what do you think people might misunderstand the most about you?
I think a lot of times people will. I'm a big guy. I'm almost 6'5", and they're always surprised that I'm quite soft spoken, and
Yeah,
I'm really quite laid back. So sometimes appearance,
gotcha.
and then I think the other thing is because I'm so kind of go with the flow a lot of times when I do, like outside of coaching, if someone really pushes me too far, then I can draw the line.
Sure.
It takes a lot. So I think sometimes people are, especially when I'm in a negotiation or something in the past when I was in business,
Right.
people would kind of think, oh yeah, he'll let this slide. But I always knew when to draw the line.
Draw it.
So it was
Yeah.
that creating respect without always having to bang on the table sort of thing. I think
Yeah.
that's the thing that surprises people the most about me.
Yeah.
And they don't see that side of me that often, but when it comes out, I
It's
can
gonna
bring it out when
come.
I need
Yeah.
to.
Thank you, because I'm 6'2". I go about 235. I'm pretty well put together, like yourself. And like first thing when we walk into rooms, they're like, "Is he a bully? Is he that guy?" And then I'm the first guy. I'm from the Midwest, man. I'm gonna give you a hug, but I can become mama hen too to protect my business, protect my clients, and
Yeah.
everything else. That's awesome. So, what is Peter's definition of a life well lived?
Oh, well, my topic is happiness in a big way. So it's just living your authentic life. So you nobody can tell you what happiness is. It's something you figure out for yourself. But I think happiness is this feedback life gives you when you're living in alignment with your values and your needs, and you're seeing life in a clear way that supports your happiness. So a life well lived is just staying true to those values and following that path. And you get so much more out of life by giving than you do by receiving. And so
100%.
I think that's the thing that's become so clear to me, and that's why it's so fundamentally important that everything I do, I find a way to add value.
The value add, man. You're amazing, brother. Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. We are back. And Peter, one of these days, you never know. We might meet in the flesh sometime. We might run into each other, whatnot. And I'm sure we'll talk about some of these questions for in depth, at length. 15, 20 minutes, we could talk in each one of these. But today you got 5 seconds. And I promise you, with no explanations, and I promise you they can all be answered that way. You ready to level up?
I'm ready to level up.
Here we go. All right, Peter. What is the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
In one sentence.
Yeah. You could do it. You could do it.
Yeah. Yeah. The best leveling up advice I've ever received is that I have far more potential than I believe I do.
Yes, all of us do, man. I love that. It's freaking awesome. So, share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Oh, the biggest habit, I think, meditation. When I learned to meditate in my early 30s, that changed my life because I recognized that my thoughts don't have to control me. I can actually get separation, and I'm not my thoughts. I realized that I can be the observer of my
Yes.
thoughts, and it just gave me so much more control of how I see the world and how I navigate the world.
Love it. Yes, the observer. That's amazing. So, other than your book, which we're going to get to here in just a little bit, Rethinking Happiness, what other book has really kind of, if you saw me and man, hey, Fergie looks like he's in his doldrums a little bit, what book might you hand me that really had an impact on you?
Wow, there's so many. I think the one that I quote most often is probably Stephen Covey's Seven Habits of
There you
Highly
go.
Effective
Yeah,
People. Just
absolutely.
he's got so much great stuff in there, and that I always come back to as a coach.
Love it. Your most commonly used emoji when you text.
Just a smiley face,
Love
actually.
it. Nicknames growing up.
Oh, I used to be in high school. They called me Eiff because the Eiffel Tower. I was a pretty big
Oh,
guy.
gotcha. Gotcha. So If you could stay one age for the rest of your life, gather physically, stay one age for the rest of your life, keep all the wisdom you've garnered and gather more wisdom, what age physically would you stay for the rest of your life? And don't lie.
I it would be like 35,
Thank
right
you.
in my mid
As long as
30s.
there's a 3 on the front of that, and you and I are good buddies, then absolutely. And do you have any other you have any hidden talent or superpowers that nobody knows about? Well, until now.
Well, I don't know if there's any superpowers, but not many people, I don't let many people hear me sing, but I was with some basketball friends in Japan and we went to a karaoke night and they were all quite surprised.
Brought it on the
So
mic, my man. Chess, checkers, or Monopoly?
I would like to say chess but I'm not good at it. So I would say Monopoly.
Okay, very cool. Headline for your life.
Uh, Awareness allows change.
Yes. Go-to ice cream flavor.
I like the combination of strawberry and lemon.
Oh, wow, you can have that, brother. Then again, I've never tried it, so I can't say that. But
it's the gelato in Italy, man. You got to go for that.
Love it.
Yeah.
There's a sandwich called the Ife. Build that sandwich for me. What's on the sandwich?
Well, I like whole grain bread. I like different types of cheeses. Some tomato pickle, a little mayo.
All right.
Were you looking for food ingredients or life ingredients?
Exactly. Food ingredients. You got any meat on there?
No, I stopped eating meat 25 years ago.
Very good.
But yeah, only because it just seemed to fit me better. But I love cheese,
Yeah, the cheese is good, especially if it's good cheese, not the processed stuff. Excellent.
There's some good stuff over here.
Favorite charity and or organization you like to give your time and or money to?
There's an organization in Germany called Children's, to translate it into the English, they're called SOS Children's Village, and they work with. There's two things I like to support. It's animals and children because both can't really take care of themselves. So that's the one I like to support.
Thank you for doing that, man. That's fantastic. And the last question, you can elaborate on this one, but what's the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
I tend to be drawn to the 90s, actually.
Really?
Yeah. The 80s, I always kind of am a little negative on the 80s, and my wife's younger than me, but she loves the 80s, and she's kind of brought me back to a lot of the good stuff from that era. But yeah, I think it's the 90s. Music ties you into a certain era, and I think it was the end of the 90s where I was kind of coming into my own, and I think recovering from a lot of things. I think maybe music puts me back there.
Absolutely. I'm an 80s guy. I mean, I graduated in 1990 from high school, so it's like I'm an 80s guy, but like when I'm actually working on stuff, I put the 70s on because I like to hear stories being told through music, right? And like the 70s was a lot of great storytellers from Gordon Lightfoot, Croce, and all those Canadians. So
for sure.
But no, so how can we find you, my friend?
The best way is through my website. It's peterteuscher.com, and it's spelled, the last name spelled Teuscher. So peterteuscher.com, and I write a weekly blog there, and that's where you can book me or find a link to my book.
Excellent. Now perfect segue. Tell me about this book that you authored, Rethinking Happiness and the Beliefs That Guide You.
Yeah, so the book is meant to help people find more authentic happiness. People come to me for coaching sometimes, and they'll say, I've got the family, the kids, I've got the career, and for some reason I'm still not happy because they've kind of checked these boxes. And so what I try and do is help them figure out where they've, not necessarily where they've got wrong, but what they've missed. And so the book is set up as a coaching book. So at the end of every chapter except for one, there's a list of questions that you can ask yourself to help reflect on the different topics. And so I look at it systemically, all different elements of your life where your beliefs affect the way that you're making choices and the way you're seeing the world, and essentially helping you curate a belief system that will help you live a happier life.
I love that. And Squad, I'm ashamed to say I haven't read it yet. I'm actually going to pick it up in Kindle and read it on my flight tonight, but I am also going to do a 2-book and 2 Kindle giveaway for the first people that let's put tower for the Eiffel Tower. Anyone that puts tower in I don't care if it's Pinterest. I don't care if you text it 561-440-3830, email it, wherever you put it, just let us know, and let us know if you want the Kindle or the paperback version, and I will definitely get that out to you. And Peter, if you could please leave me with the squad, with one last solid knowledge nugget that we can take with us, internalize, and take action on.
Absolutely. I think my focus is on beliefs, and I want people to remember that your beliefs are not your identity. They're not something that's etched in stone. So if there's a belief that's not serving you, learn to change it and make sure that it's going to lead you to your potential and to the life that you want to live.
Love it. And squad, I don't know about you, but I kind of had a free masterclass. It was in a really laid back fashion about my good friend, Peter Teuscher, who in his journey, he really faced a lot of his version of crisis, which forced him to kind of a rock bottom situation, which really forced change upon him. But he looked at life I can just see him. He's probably when he's going through that time, he looked like a duck on a pond where he looks chill on top. Underneath, man, those paddlers are just going and going and going. And he sought help. Because he reminded us that depression and anxiety can go hand in hand. But it doesn't have to be a major change for depression to creep in. That's one thing that he kind of put out there that really hit home with me, because I was very successful at the time, printing money, blah, blah, blah. But I was depressed in a sense where the anxiety just really kicked my ass. He started finding through his own exercise and the own people that he would talk to, finding clarity. And that helped him navigate the changes that he needed. They said that systemic is a set of a holistic approach and holistic is not foo-foo, look at me, herbs and stuff like that. It's a whole being, squad. I mean, sometimes you need the meds. That's part of holistic too, right? But it's the food we put in us, what we put in our mind. And if you're going to work with a coach, or maybe you're in the discovery period, or hopefully it's Peter, ask your coach what coaching is, and they better have a damn good answer for you. And a good coach is not going to use a template. He's not going to be out there going, oh, you do this, do this, do this. No, he's going to be like my good friend Peter. He's going to be super curious, ask powerful questions. It's going to instill action. I mean, Peter's out there planting trees he's never going to sit in the shade of. I can just see him like right now. He does things for the intention, not the attention. He's super humble, a nice guy. I would definitely have a brain grenade or two with him, or a coffee or whatever they drink over there in Germany. And he wants us to remember that don't believe everything that you think. Don't listen to yourself. And like especially if it doesn't feel right. I'm a big believer in talking to yourself. Well, he wants you to be authentic, and that happiness is the feedback that life is giving you right now. Be happy. Pick up his book or listen, put it in there, Tower in there, and I'm happy to do the book giveaway. And lastly, beliefs are not your identity if they're not serving you. And if your beliefs are not serving you right now, please, please, please let me make a warm intro to my good friend Peter, who levels up his health. He levels up his wealth. He's earned a varsity squad letter here at Time to Shine today. Thank you so much for coming on, Peter. Absolutely love your guts, man.
Thanks so much, Scott. It's been amazing being with you.
Yeah, chat soon. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine today, proudly brought to you by Inlet Properties and Investments. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on the Time to Shine Today podcast, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also, there you will see our recommended resources. We hope you will help support our show by supporting them. If you like what you have been listening to, it'd be great if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's your time to shine.